123，讲桌麦克风测试，test test test test，123麦克风测试。
没开。
Test, test. Test, test, test.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the International Press Conference we are hosting in order to welcome the Honorable Anders Rasmussen. He's the chair of the Alliance of Democracy, but he was also a Secretary General of NATO, a former Prime Minister of Denmark. It's really a great honor to have him here visiting Taiwan. We have been long waiting for his visit. On the stage, we also have Deputy Foreign Minister Dr. Tsai Ming-yen here representing MOFA to welcome the Honorable Rasmussen. So here also, we have also important members of the delegation with us. We have Mr. Jonas Parolo-Plaster. He's the Executive Director of the Alliance of Democracies here with us. And also Mr. Tim Allen, Communication Director of the Alliance of Democracies here with us. Also Liu Tuo, he's a Deputy Director General. Better say, he also supervising the Department of European Affairs here with us. Currently, he's position Deputy Secretary General of the Taiwan and U.S. Council. Having introduced the important guests here, so I would like to first invite our Deputy Foreign Minister here, Dr. Tsai Ming-yen, to welcome the Honorable on behalf of the Foreign Ministry. 先请蔡次长致辞。
好，谢谢。我先用中文再用英文哦。好，拉斯穆森主席，我们访团的贵宾，各位媒体朋友，大家好。那今天非常高兴，也非常荣幸有这个机会，代表外交部跟我们民主联盟基金会的拉斯穆森主席共同参加这一场的记者会。那特别要欢迎拉斯穆森主席是在时隔了30年之后再度来访问台湾，为我们2023年的台湾的外交活动揭开一个非常美好、非常重要的一个序幕。那拉斯穆森主席是台湾真挚的好朋友，他坚定地支持台湾的自由民主，在各种的国际场合当中，全力的支持台湾，使国际社会更加关注台湾的民主，跟台湾站在一起。拉斯穆森主席曾经担任北约的秘书长，他主张北大西洋公约的第5条集体防御的原则，也可以适用到对抗来自威权主义国家的经济胁迫。面对威权主义的扩张，他相信民主国家的团结非常的重要。那我们也相信，拉斯穆森主席这一次到台湾来，一定会增加他对台湾的了解。那未来台湾也会持续的跟我们的民主伙伴加强合作，共同来维护印太地区的和平、安全还有稳定。谢谢大家。好，接下来是英文的部分。Chairman Rasmussen, distinguished members of the delegation, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to everyone. It's a great pleasure to attend this press conference with Chairman Rasmussen. Being able to welcome him back marks a very wonderful and important start to 2023. Chairman Rasmussen is a true friend of Taiwan. He has worked long and hard to ensure that the international community pays closer attention to Taiwan's democracy and stands in solidarity with our nation. Chairman Rasmussen was the Secretary General of NATO. He advocates that the principle of collective defense of Article 5 of NATO's founding treaty should apply to countering economic coercion from authoritarian regimes. Facing with the threat of authoritarian expansion, it is important for all democracies to unite in solidarity. I believe that Chairman Rasmussen has got more understanding on development relating to Taiwan during this visit. Taiwan will continue working with our democratic partners to safeguard peace, security, and stability throughout the Indo-Pacific region. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Foreign Minister Dr. Tsai. And now it's my honor to invite Chairman Rasmussen to address the audience. Thank you.
Deputy Foreign Minister, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. It is really a pleasure to be back in Taiwan, and I would like to thank President Tsai Ing-wen and Foreign Minister Wu for inviting me. I'm here in my role as chairman of the Alliance of Democracies Foundation. I created the foundation after ending my term as NATO Secretary General. Our aim is simple: to bring the world's democracies closer together in the face of increasingly aggressive autocracies. Supporting Taiwan's democracy is central to that goal. Over the last 30 years, Taiwan has become a beacon of liberty, both in Asia and for the entire world. And that's why I'm here today, to declare my full support for freedom, democracy, and the right of the Taiwanese people to decide their own future in peace. Across the Taiwan Strait, we see an aggressive autocracy threatening a smaller democratic state. The parallels with Russia and Ukraine are hard to ignore. We must not make the same mistakes with Xi Jinping that we did with Vladimir Putin. And I see three key lessons to draw from the situation in Ukraine for Taiwan. First, Taiwan must have the ability to defend itself. Deterring an attack by China relies on the credible belief that any invasion would come at an immense cost. President Biden's repeated statement that the United States will help Taiwan if China were to attack the island is welcome. Strategic ambiguity has been replaced by strategic clarity. President Tsai Ing-wen's decision to extend military service from 4 months to 1 year is also important. As the president said, as long as Taiwan is strong enough, it will be the home of democracy and freedom. Second, the free world has shown impressive unity in response to the war in Ukraine, both in terms of weapons supplies, but also economic sanctions. Putin did not expect this, and we can be sure Xi Jinping is watching closely. Any attempt by China to change the status quo in Taiwan by force should spark an equally unified response. And we must make this clear to China now. China is far more reliant on global supply chains than Russia. Spelling out the severe economic consequences of any attack now would be a powerful deterrent. Just as the United States has shown itself essential to European security, European countries must work more closely with the United States and democracies in the Indo-Pacific. And then, lastly, the most important way to deter a Chinese move on Taiwan is to ensure a Ukrainian victory in the current conflict. If Russia can gain territory and establish a new status quo by force, it will set a precedent. Dictators everywhere will learn that ultimately military aggression works, that the democratic world chooses appeasement over confrontation. And the lesson we learn from history is that appeasement with dictators does not lead to peace. On the contrary, it leads to war and conflict. That is why all those who believe in a democratic Taiwan and a rules-based international order must work to ensure Ukraine prevails. It is for the people of Ukraine and the people of Taiwan to decide on their own futures. The free world must give them our support. Thank you, and I look very much forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for these very inspiring words. We definitely need translation for that. Thank you, 嘉豪。
蔡市长，各位先生女士，非常感谢刚刚蔡市长给我的这么美好的引荐哦。那我也很高兴能够回到台湾，也非常谢谢蔡总统以及吴部长的邀请。我这一次访问台湾的身份是民主联盟基金会的主席。那我是在我卸任北约的秘书长的时候呢，成立这个基金会的。我们这个基金会的目的就是希望能够让全世界的民主国家能够更加的紧密，尤其是在面对威权主义的扩张的这个情势之下，那支持台湾其实也是跟这样子的基金会的目标完全一致。过去30年以来，台湾已经成为了自由的灯塔，不只是在亚洲是典范，更是全世界的典范。因此，我此次来访就是要宣示我全面支持自由与民主的台湾，以及台湾人民对于自己未来和平的一个决定权利。在整个台海地区呢，我们也看到了一个巨大的独裁国家正在威胁这一个比较小的民主国家。那这也是与俄罗斯入侵乌克兰是非常相似的，像这样子的一个对比，我们无法去忽视，更不能够让普丁侵略乌克兰这样子的情形在习近平身上重蹈覆辙。从乌克兰的战争当中，台湾可以学到3个教训。首先，第一就是要确保台湾有能力自我防卫，甚至能够进一步防范于未然，能够嚇阻中国的入侵。那么，我们必须要让中国去知道说，如果对台湾动用武力进行入侵的话，中国将会付出非常巨大的代价。事实上，美国总统拜登已经多次声明了，如果中国对台湾武力攻击的话，美国是会出面帮忙的。像这样子的战略模糊，已经由战略清晰来取而代之。而蔡总统日前也宣布4个月的义务役也会延长成1年，这也是非常重要的。诚如蔡总统所言，台湾如果够强，那么就能够确保台湾持续作为民主的沃土。那在乌克兰的战争面前，整个自由社会必须也展现了空前的团结，不只是在提供乌克兰武器方面的团结，更是非常一致的对于俄罗斯进行经济的制裁。当然，普丁当初并没有料想到事情会发展成这样，相信习近平也在密切观察整个状况。那只要中国武力去片面改变台海现状的话，他们也会知道说，整个自由世界也会团结因应这样子的一个情势。由于中国对于全球的供应链的仰赖程度大于俄罗斯，中国也会知道说，只要对台湾动用武力的话，也会有相当大的经济的代价，因此这也是很大的一个嚇阻力量。那么我们知道，美国很致力于欧洲的安全，因此欧洲国家应该与美国合作，也致力维护印太地区的安全。那最后呢，我相信要嚇阻中国最重要的一个方法，就是要确保乌克兰获胜。因为如果俄罗斯得逞，占领了乌克兰的领土，并且成立了一个建立了新的现状的话，那就会开创一个先例，使得许多的独裁者会认为动用武力是能够行得通的。那么许多的民主国家如果选择姑息而退缩而不反抗的话，那么历史的教训也告诉我们，这种选择并不会带来和平，反而是会带来进一步的战争与冲突。因此，我们必须要去相信说，我们要确保台湾的民主，并且不但要维护台湾的民主，还要维护整个全世界的以秩序为基础的全球秩序，以规则为基础的全球秩序。只要相信这2个价值的人士们，一定要确保乌克兰在这场战争中获胜。因为无论是乌克兰还是台湾的人民，都应该有权利决定自己的未来。那为了这样子的权利，我们整个自由世界应该要全力予以支持。谢谢大家。
Thank you, Jiahao. Now we open the floor for questions. We do first CNA Novia, and then we go to that aisle. We do Novia CNA.
Central News Agency. I will address my question in Chinese. 第一题是，有学者主张，面对中国的威胁，应该要将北约 NATO 扩大为北大西洋、印度太平洋公约组织。您认为这是否可行？那我的第二题是，英国金融时报月前曾经报道，北约9月曾经专门针对台海情势开会，会中认为北约不会卷入台湾战争。您认为北约是否应该在台海扮演更多的角色，来维护全球供应链的韧性和区域的安全？
Thank you. Now we need translation. Thank you.
I have two questions. First, some academics have proposed that NATO be expanded into the North Atlantic Indo-Pacific Treaty Organization, NATO, in the face of the threat from China. Is this concept feasible? Secondly, according to Financial Times report, NATO held talks on the China threat to Taiwan in September. During the debate, it was posited that NATO would be unlikely to get involved directly in the war over Taiwan. Would you suggest that NATO play a more active role in the Taiwan Strait in order to safeguard global supply chain resilience and regional security?
Thank you, Jiahao. Mr. Chairman.
The first question about NATO expanding into the Asia-Pacific region. I don't think that would be the most efficient way to address the challenges in the Indo-Pacific. Instead, I think it is important to develop multilateral defense cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. For instance, we have already seen the creation of the AUKUS alliance between Australia, the UK and the United States. We have also seen the Quad and security cooperation between India, Japan, Australia and the US develop into a more important security cooperation. For instance, President Biden organized a summit within the Quad recently in the White House. And I would expect the Quad to develop into a more robust security cooperation in the future. So all in all, we have already some structures developing in the Indo-Pacific that I think would be more efficient as a response to the challenges in the Indo-Pacific than a NATO expansion into the Indo-Pacific. So that's the first question. Maybe that should be translated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Jiahao, thanks.
关于北约扩大的问题事实上呢，的确这也是一个非常有效率的一个方式来去因应在印太地区的挑战。事实上呢，我们在印太地区已经看到很多很重要的多边的安全合作，还有国防合作的一些发展。例如说，澳洲、英国跟美国已经成立了 AUKUS 这样子一个联盟。那除此之外，还有美日英澳4个国家也成立了Quad四方安全的会谈，也逐渐在形成更重要的安全合作的一个框架。那事实上呢，最近拜登政府也在白宫才召开了一场Quad的峰会。那相信呢，我也预期接下来在未来Quad也会进一步发展成为更重要、更扎实的一个安全合作的机制。那这些都是能够提升我们在印太地区因应许多挑战非常有效的一个发展，这些可能都比北约在印太地区扩大更加的有效。
Thank you.
Yeah, and the second question is about NATO engagement in a confrontation across the Taiwan Strait. Again, I don't see NATO as an actor in such a conflict. However, I think we should react determinedly if China were to attack Taiwan. And we should replace strategic ambiguity with strategic clarity, which would take two things. Firstly, we should deliver assistance, military assistance to Taiwan to make Taiwan capable to defend itself by itself. And secondly, we should make clear to China that would provoke profound and comprehensive sanctions, economic sanctions against China that would in practice cut off China from the global economic system. And in that respect, all NATO allies, including the European countries, could play an essential role, so that the cost for China of an attack against Taiwan would be so high that the leadership in Beijing would think at least twice before attacking Taiwan. I think that would be a much more efficient response to a possible Chinese attack against Taiwan. I think that would be a potent deterrent against such an attack.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. 嘉豪。
接下来第二个问题是关于北约在台海扮演的角色哦。其实，在台海可能的冲突当中，我并没有把北约视为一个行为者 actor。但是呢，如果中国武力攻打台湾的话，那北约势必还是要具体的因应。那这个时候呢，就应该把战略模糊以战略清晰来取代。那这边呢有两个重点，第一个是一定要提供台湾必要的军事的援助，使得台湾能够有能力自己防卫自己。那再来就是一定要向中国发送一个非常清晰的讯号，那就是片面以武力改变台海现状，会给中国带来非常重大且全面的经济制裁，会使得中国从全球的经济体系全面脱钩。那事实上，在这所有的北约的成员国，当然也包括欧洲的国家，在这样子的一个讯号发送当中，也扮演了非常核心的角色，让中国知道说，攻打台湾的代价之重，使得北京的领导阶层呢，他们必须一定要三思而后行。那我相信，像这两样的重点呢，其实本身对于可能潜在的中国对台湾的武力攻击是非常非常有效的，甚至是非常非常强大的一个嚇阻的力量。
Thank you. We'll take questions from that aisle, or Deutschville, or William Young.
Hi, thank you so much. East Asia correspondent for Deutsche Welle. My question is following up on what Chairman Rasmussen just mentioned about the European countries' ability to offer military support for Taiwan. We see that in the case of Ukraine, it's apparently much easier for that to be fulfilled. But in the case of Taiwan, which is geographically much further away from Europe, and I think there are also like a lot more challenges for this to be fulfilled. How do you think are the concrete steps that the European Union can start doing and discussing and thinking in the event of, in the contingency plan, in the event of a potential Taiwan Strait conflict? Thank you.
Let's be realistic. The most important supplier of weapons and military assistance to Taiwan would be the United States. However, I think to prevent a possible Chinese attack against Taiwan, the European countries could assist in different ways in advance. I mean, joint training and exercises could be an important tool in that respect. We have done so with Ukrainian troops. We could do exactly the same with servicemen and women from Taiwan. We could conduct such training and exercises on European soil, for instance. But I think first and foremost, the European contribution could be on the economic front to join the United States in comprehensive and profound sanctions against China.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. 嘉豪 thank you.
事实上，就比较 具体而言，台湾最大的武器供应来源以及军事支援的来源呢，毕竟还是美国。但我认为，如果要防范可能中国对台的动武的话，那么欧洲其实可以在事先呢，用不同的方式来帮助台湾。例如说，像是军事演习或者是军事训练呢，基本上就是很重要的工具。我们也看到了欧洲国家对乌克兰有这样子的军事训练方面的援助，台湾的军人其实也曾经跟欧洲的军人一起合作过。那么我相信在欧洲的土地上进行军事的演练会是一个很好的作为。那么欧洲其实在经济方面也可以对台湾有所贡献，例如说跟着美国一起，如果中国对台湾进行武力攻击的话，可以祭出非常强而有力且全面的经济制裁。
Thank you. This aisle. Okay, many questions. We do. Can you perhaps do two guys ask questions together? Yeah, in order to organize the time. You can first, and then we do. Dongshu, is that okay? Okay. Thank you.
I have two questions. The first question is, how would you describe the current state of democracy around the world? And the second one is, do you think the world is paying enough attention on the situation in the Taiwan Strait?
Thank you, Yugen. And also, Dongshu, your questions?
My question is about the COVID-19 situation in China is not transparent. And now many countries worry that new variants will appear in China and spread around the world again. So do you think the joint response by the Democratic Alliance countries could do better? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, if that's okay, we allow Mr. Chairman to decide.
Yep. First, on the state of democracy globally. According to independent think tanks, we have seen a steady decline in freedom and democracy globally for the 16th consecutive year. So for 16 years in a row, we have seen such a decline in freedom and democracy. And that's one of the reasons why I established my foundation, the Alliance of Democracies Foundation, to counter the advancing autocracies. So we have to really strengthen our efforts to protect and promote freedom and democracy and counter the autocrats globally. So that was the first question. Maybe it should be
yes,
translated.
we can translate. That is okay. Yeah.
第一题有关于全球民主现况哦，那么独立的智库呢也都指出了，我们全球的民主以及自由呢是连16年倒退，这也是为什么我会成立我们的民主联盟基金会，就是要对抗威权主义的扩张。在面对威权主义的扩张的情况之下，你要必须加强我们对于民主的推广以及保护的作为。
And the second question concerns the Taiwan Strait. If the world pays sufficient attention to the tensions in Taiwan Strait, the brief answer is no. The world hasn't so far paid sufficient attention to the tensions in the Taiwan Strait, and we should realize that the conflict between China and Taiwan has and will have global repercussions. So we have a global interest in preventing those tensions from escalating into an armed conflict. There is an old saying that if you want to secure peace, be prepared for war. And that's exactly also my approach, that we should avoid any change of status quo by preparing ourselves to counter any possible Chinese attack, because it will have global repercussions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. 嘉豪
第二题是关于台海的问题，就是全世界对于台海的紧张情势的注意力是否足够？答案是否定的。目前全世界对于这样的情势的注意力还不够。那我们应该要意识到，就是任何整个两岸之间的冲突呢，都会对全球造成影响。因此，如果能够防范台海的紧张情势升温，对全球都有利。我们有一句话，俗话曾经说，如果要追求和平的话，就应该要准备好去迎接战争。其实我的做法就是说，当我们要去避免整个台海任何可能的武力改变片面现状的时候呢，就必须要去对任何可能中国武力进攻台湾的可能性做好充足的准备。
Thank you.
Yeah, the third question was about the COVID situation in China, and it is really a situation of great concern. The situation seems to be spiraling out of control. So the change from zero COVID into chaos COVID will have or may have very serious consequences for the whole world. And it is yet another example that the authoritarian system cannot deliver appropriate responses to neither academic challenges nor economic or social challenges in the world. You can try to hide the truth or facts and figures, but people will eventually discover that the regime is not handling the situation efficiently. I wouldn't pretend that democracies can deliver always the most efficient answers. We are also making mistakes in democracies, but in democracies you have the right to speak up against those in power. That gives more transparency, gives at the end of the day more efficiency, and we can correct our mistakes instead of continuing in the wrong direction. So I think the situation in China is a demonstration that the autocrat cannot deliver what people want.
So important. Thank you so much, Jiahao. Thank you.
再来第三个问题是关于中国的疫情。的确，中国疫情的失控令人忧心。中国从清零到失控的这个状况呢，对全球都会造成严重的结果。我们从中国的状况再次见证到，威权的政府对于学术挑战或者是社会挑战、经济等挑战呢，都没有办法妥善的因应。就算他们当权者要去遮掩数据、去隐瞒疫情，民众还是会看得到政府就是做得不够好。反观民主体制，我们可以看到，当然，就算在民主体制当中，政府还是会犯错，但是人民有权利去要求当权者、政府去透明化、去修正错误。所以呢，这样子中国的疫情再次的展现了威权的政府没有办法满足人民的需求。
Okay, now we'll take two persons from this aisle. Or we do, okay, ladies first. We do Bethany and then Rick. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Bethany Allen, the China reporter for Axios. You have emphasized that Europe's role in the case of a Chinese aggression against Taiwan would be implementing very harsh sanctions against China. However, the problem with this, there's several problems, but first of all is that China's economy is so much larger than Russia's. The people of Europe would suffer greatly if countries tried to cut off China from the global economy. All of our economies would suffer. Our European populace is prepared to make that kind of sacrifice for an island that's thousands of miles away, and if not, how should European leaders prepare their populaces for the possibility of that kind of an economic bite?
Okay. Now we also do Rick from Taiwan Plus. I will see Eric from CNN as well. But we do Rick first, and then CNN.
Hello, I'm Rick Lark from Time Plus. I wanted to ask you, what signs have you seen from Europe or NATO-aligned countries that they are learning from the war in Ukraine when it comes to how they deal with the Taiwan issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. We also do Eric, CNN.
Hello, sir. This is Eric from CNN. A very quick one. You mentioned about the parallels between Ukraine and Taiwan, and you also mentioned Biden's repeated comments. And I'm interested to know your views regarding what NATO as a bloc should be doing today and in concrete terms to safeguard Taiwan and prevent the tragedy in Ukraine from happening again. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take these 3 questions. Thank you.
First question about sanctions against China and the Europeans' willingness to actually participate, maybe sacrifice participating in such sanctions. Of course, that is a key question. But already now we are witnessing a change of mentality in Europe. It's been a wake-up call to witness Putin's attack against Ukraine. And I think most Europeans realize that the model upon which we have built our society so far does not work any longer. We have built a Europe based on security provided by the United States, cheap goods from China, and cheap gas from Russia. That model doesn't work any longer. So we really have to change that model. And you're quite right, we will have to prepare the Europeans for a change in which we will not be able to rely on a supply chain from China till Europe. Many European companies are now reviewing their supply chains. They are considering outsourcing from China to other low-cost countries in Asia, or even closer to their main headquarters in Europe or North America. And my advice to internationally oriented companies is you should not engage too closely with autocrats, because we are approaching a new world order with 2 camps, an autocratic camp led by China and a democratic camp led by the United States. And it's inevitable that you will see increased tensions between those 2 camps in the coming years. And you have to choose whether you will engage with the Democrats or the autocrats. And it's risky business to engage with autocrats. So I think the Europeans would realize this is the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. 嘉豪。
第一个问题是，对于欧洲是否愿意为了在对中国进行制裁而有所牺牲，当然这是一个关键的问题。现在我们正在见证欧洲人心态的改变，因为呢，普丁他对乌克兰发动攻击，算是给欧洲人敲醒了一个醒钟。欧洲人开始意识到，我们目前所打造的经济模型、社会模型已经行不通了。长期以来，欧洲人所打造的模式呢，就是安全靠美国，便宜的货物呢靠中国，便宜的天然气靠俄罗斯。但这样子的模型不可行，必须要改变。那的确，我们也正在替欧洲人准备着要去做未来的改变，不能够再让我们的供应链呢依赖中国。所以呢，其实欧洲正在检讨我们的供应链。那所以呢，现在很多欧洲的人士、企业等等都开始从中国的焦点呢转移到其他的亚洲国家、低成本的，甚至呢还有其他的欧洲跟北美洲的地区等等。 那事实上，对于欧洲的一些企业来讲呢，如果跟中国的合作走得太近的话，那本身是行不通的。因为接下来的未来的世界会有两个阵营，一个是以中国为首的威权阵营，另外一个是以美国为首的民主阵营。这两个阵营之间的紧张情势难免会升高。那么如果选择去选中国为首的那个威权阵营的话，那风险相对就很高。欧洲人必须要去意识到，这就是我们的未来。
And the second question was about lessons learned from Ukraine. I touched upon that in my introduction, so let me just add to this. Overall, we have been too naive when it comes to Russia. We have underestimated the ambitions and the brutality of President Putin. At the same time, we have actually overestimated the strength of the Russian military. But I think the most important lesson to be learned is autocrats like Putin do not respect weakness. They only respect firmness and unity among the democratic allies. So that's why we should not repeat this mistake by being too weak, too accommodating when it comes to China. We should never ever give in to nuclear blackmail. Those who give in to nuclear blackmail are condemned to live in slavery under the stick and pleasure of the nuclear master. So the lesson learned is we must be firm in our response to the autocrats.
Thank you very much for these words. 嘉豪。
从乌克兰当中，我们学到的教训呢，其实我刚刚在引言致辞的时候就已经说过了。整体而言，我们对于俄罗斯来讲太天真了，尤其是我们低估了普丁总统的野心以及残酷。可是更重要的一个教训呢，就是像普丁等威权的独裁者，他们是欺弱怕强的，所以唯有民主国家、民主的盟友能够坚定的团结，才能够获得这些独裁者的尊敬。我们不可以对中国示弱，同理。所以说，我们如果面对像中国、俄罗斯这样子的所谓用核武来威胁整个全世界来讲呢，其实我们是不可以退缩的。因为如果我们退缩的话，如果因为我们的退缩导致很多人遭到这些拥有核武的独裁者奴役的话，那退缩者就是历史的罪人。因此，我们必须要坚定，我们要团结。
And the third question was regarding a NATO role. I have already talked upon that. Let me add to this. I see 3 areas, at least, where NATO or NATO allies could cooperate closer with Taiwan. The first is cyber. NATO has developed cyber capabilities, and it could be useful to strengthen cooperation between NATO and Taiwan when it comes to exchange of knowledge, intelligence, and experience within the cyber area. Secondly, as I already mentioned, I think joint training and exercises could be another area. And then thirdly, at least it should be explored whether NATO allies and Taiwan could cooperate closer when it comes to the use of high tech when it comes to military systems and equipment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. 嘉豪。
第3题是关于北约所扮演的角色。其实在开场致辞的时候我也说过了。那主要北约盟友呢，在跟台湾合作 但有可能的3个领域。第一个是网络的领域，就是说我们其实在北约呢已经开发了相关的能力。那在北约跟台湾在进行网络安全的合作方面呢，我相信呢可以进行知识以及情报的交流。再来第2点，我在开场之时说过，就是北约的盟友可以跟台湾进行协助台湾的军事训练，以及跟台湾进行联合军演。第3个可以探索的部分，就是说，当北约的盟友跟台湾，其实可以进一步探索说，可否在武器系统还有在国防的军备上面呢，是否能够运用高科技。
Thank you very much. I'm conscious of the time. The remaining question we do wrap up. Last round of questions. We take all the questions. We do Shaofan first, right? And then we have Brand from Sky News Australia, and from the William, you have a second round of questions. Okay, these last three questions. Thank you.
Epoch Times reporter Ken Chen. I would like to ask, the EU is discussing the anti-coercion instrument to deter a third country's use of economic leverage against the EU. Do you think such an instrument will make European countries free from fear in engaging with Taiwan? Thank you.
Thank you, Shaofan. Then we do Brand from Sky News Australia.
Just a quick question about your trip itself. We've seen quite a few foreign politicians and prominent figures visit Taiwan in recent months. I wonder what you make of suggestions that such visits further inflame tensions, that they're more likely to lead to statements from Beijing and more saber rattling.
Thanks, Brand. Okay, from this aisle, remaining questions from William.
Yeah, so 2 quick questions. One is you talked about the importance of replacing strategic ambiguity with strategic clarity. Do you feel like this is something that the EU and other Asian partners in the region should also adopt and following? And the second question is that we know that European Union, after all, is a consensus-built organization. And in your opinion, what do you see are some of the existing challenges that might not be able to allow the EU to go further as it should on the topic of Taiwan?
Thank you, William. Okay, no more any other questions. We invite the Mr. Chairman to respond.
First, on coercion. As part of our work within the Alliance of Democracies, we have developed the idea of what we call an economic Article 5. Obviously, that is inspired by my past position as NATO Secretary General. Within NATO, we have a military Article 5. It states that we consider an attack on one an attack on all. My idea is we should do exactly the same within the economic sphere and say, if a democracy is exposed to economic coercion from, for example, China, then all the other democracies should come to the aid of that country. We have seen examples, Australia, Lithuania, and also Taiwan. So once a democracy is exposed to coercion from China, we should help Taiwan or Lithuania or Australia in different ways, by trading more, by investing more. I think the mere existence of such a mechanism would be a potent deterrent. By the way, I learned that recently Taiwan has been, or some Taiwanese products have been banned by China, including beer and whiskey. And actually, during the dinner that Foreign Minister Wu hosted Tuesday night, I had the opportunity to taste what I would call the freedom beer and the Catalan whiskey. I can recommend both products, and as China has now banned them, I think we should purchase more of those products. That would be the economic Article 5 in practice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
第一个就是说在，有关于就是对抗经济威胁这一块事实上我们在民主联盟基金会的内部工作当中，我们提出了一个概念，叫做北约的第5条经济版。那事实上，这个灵感来源就是我自己担任北约的秘书长的时候所有这样子一个灵感，就是说我们在北约的确有一个国防方面的一个集体防卫的。北约第5条款就是一个会员国遭受攻击，就视为所有会员国遭受攻击。那在经济方面，我们应该要有相同的概念。如果一个民主国家被，例如说中国经济胁迫了，那么所有的民主国家就应该要一起帮助这个被胁迫的民主国家。事实上，我们在澳洲、立陶宛跟台湾的身上已经看到中国经济威胁的案例。一旦比如说澳洲、立陶宛跟台湾被经济胁迫的时候，我们应该要透过增加贸易投资的方式来帮助这些国家。那像这样子的机制，如果能够存在的话，就会是一个很好的一个经济吓阻的力量。那么事实上，最近我也得知就是有台湾的酒类产品也遭到中国的禁令。我在周二吴部长的晚宴当中呢，也有机会去品尝台湾的自由啤酒，还有格马兰的威士忌。那如果我们能够购买更多这类的台湾产品的话，就会是北约第5条经济版的具体体现。
And the second question is if I think the flow of visits to Taiwan right now will inflame tensions. No. And they shouldn't. I mean, if we accept the Chinese premise that visits to Taiwan increase tensions, then we will leave it to autocrats to rule the world. And my second remark is, on the contrary, I do believe that this flow of visitors to Taiwan is a clear demonstration of the democratic world's willingness and determinedness to defend Taiwan. So it's part of our building up a strong deterrence against a possible Chinese attack. So my argument would be that these visits serve the purpose of maintaining peace.
Very well said. Thank you. 嘉豪 thanks.
下一个问题就是说，如果我们现在访问台湾以及其他的欧洲西方的高层的访台潮，会不会增加台海的紧张情势？我认为不应也不会增加这个紧张情势，因为如果我们接受中国的说法，说访问台湾会增加台海的紧张的话，那我们等于是任由这些独裁者去统治全世界，去控制全世界。反之呢，我相信最近的近几个月甚至今年的访台潮，反而是展现了全世界对于保卫台湾的意志跟决心。如果我们能够形成一个有效的吓阻的力量，来对抗一个可能台湾的武力攻击的话，那这些访台的潮流反而是在维护这个地区的和平。
And the third question, do I think there's rules in the EU decision-making mechanism, including the requirement of consensus, that will prevent a rapprochement between the EU and Taiwan? No, I don't think so. But I think there is a European mentality that has to change. For too long, we, the Europeans, have been too naive when it comes to dealing with autocrats. That goes for Russia. For too long, we built up a dependency on cheap Russian gas. Now, the mentality has changed. And actually, it's telling that Germany, which was the European country that was most dependent on imported Russian oil and gas, now has reduced that dependency to zero in record time. And we have been equally naive when it comes to dealing with China. And we should not repeat that mistake. So I think it's first and foremost a mentality, European mentality that has to change. And let me just conclude by saying you will still meet Europeans who believe that Europe can be a mediator between the United States on the one hand and China on the other hand. That's also naive. In an existential struggle, fight between democracy and autocracy, you cannot stay neutral. You will have to choose side. And we, the Europeans, must of course side with the United States and other democracies against the autocracies. And that's exactly why I think we should build this alliance of democracies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. 嘉豪。
再来就是在讲说，欧盟内部的这个决策机制，也就是所谓的共识决，会不会阻碍台欧之间的关系发展？我认为不会，但是我们欧洲的心态应该要改变，因为太多年以来，我们真的是就是面对威权的国家，我们真的太天真了。例如说，我们长期以来太过依赖俄罗斯的天然气。当然，这方面的心态我们也正在见证到改变。例如说，德国是全欧洲最依赖俄罗斯天然气的国家，可是俄罗斯正以空前的速度来降低对俄罗斯天然气的依赖。那事实上，欧洲对中国也是过度的天真哦。那我们不应该在中国方面呢重蹈覆辙。所以，首先欧洲的心态应该要改。如果我相信就是现在还是有部分的欧洲人认为欧洲可以扮演美中之间调停者的角色，但这个想法太天真了，因为现在是民主对抗威权的一个时代，在这个对抗的形势之下呢，没有办法保持中立，一定要选边站，而我们欧洲人应该要选择站在美国以及民主的阵营这一边来对抗威权，这也是为什么我主张要形塑一个民主的联盟。
We're deeply grateful for the visit of the Honorable Mr. Anders Rasmussen. Want to thank you for your visit. It has been so significant. Want to thank him for the inspiration he gave us, for the strength he has shown the world, and the support to Taiwan. Thank you for your visit. It has come in a timely way, and we look forward to your visit again very soon. I also want to thank for the presence of our Deputy Foreign Minister, Dr. Tsai Ming-yen, for being here welcoming Chairman Rasmussen on behalf of the Foreign Ministry. I also want to thank for the presence of each one of you, of all the reporters, all media outlets here. You made this conference a fruitful discussion. Thank you so very much, and we look forward to welcoming you in the future. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Shall I?